All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time to be with us today. And we have a lengthy agenda, so without further ado, if we can get a motion to adopt the agenda, but we've got a couple changes that we'd like to ask you to do to adopt. And we are going to move item number 14, which is the annual financial report, just after item number 6, the presentation from the Arts Council. And then on item 7, we're going to ask you to remove action. This will be for information purposes only for today. So there will be no action to be taken on that, and Deanna will give us more detail when she gives us that presentation. And those are the changes that are needed on this agenda approval.
So I make the motion that we adopt the agenda, or approve the agenda rather, with those changes.
Thank you. Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Again, thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from our November 21st regular meeting minutes. And they've been provided to you for your review. And if there are no changes or any corrections that need to be made, we'll need a motion to adopt those minutes, please.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries on the minutes. Thank you. Item number 5, Vietnam Veterans Visitor Center. You ready?
Sure.
Come on up, Pat.
Okay, just briefly, at the last meeting, I brought up the problems we were having in the memorial with people being in the water, in the pond, bathing their dogs. I finally got an appointment with General Alford, and we talked about it, and he was just appalled. He ordered now, in addition to the MP's rulings, that if you see anybody doing anything at any of the memorials that is not what it should be, call the MPs. They have the authority now to arrest.
Okay.
And he is also going to put up larger signs and more signs telling people to stay out of the water, no smoking around the memorials, and so forth. So hopefully this will be done in the next few weeks.
Thank you very much. That's a great update. I know there's some issues with some card games and things that are going on out there, and thank you for that. Very much appreciated. Next order of business is going to be item number 6. We're going to get a presentation from Noah White from the Arts Council. Noah, thank you for being here. I know you just are in recovery, so thank you for joining us.
But thank you. It's more just a couple of minutes just to give you guys an update on where we are. Last year, this time, we weren't doing very well, as many of you know. We were very close to closing down. I would really just wanted to say thank you to everyone, the city, Glenn, Dr. Woodruff, all of you that have kind of realized that I'm pretty passionate about the Arts Council, and I think that it serves a very distinct purpose in our community, and we're doing really well now. So thank you for that. The Bulldogs, the mascots, are doing really well. We've got several orders back ordered right now. So they're going out pretty quickly, and we're finishing up. There's a mock-up situation where we do a mock-up and then we get approval from the client before we finish up. So we're going through that process with many of them right now. We are actually going to start back our spring festival, which we were unable to have last year. And we're going to be doing that in Riverwalk Park, which I'm pretty excited about. That gives us a little bit more room to work with and things like that. It'll be a much better event, something that we can actually work with as far as making ourselves a bit more sustainable throughout the year. And that's really my goal with everything that we're doing here on out, is to make us as sustainable as possible. So we don't have to rely on, as much as we have in the past. So my goal is for us to be an entity that brings things to our community and not take things from our community. So I'm pretty excited about our future. Scott Playford is the president of the board over there. He and I are working pretty well together to get everything up and running. And basically what I really wanted to say was thank you to all of you for listening to my problem and taking it seriously and giving us the opportunity to prove that we can do more than what we were doing. So thank you for that.
Great update, Nona. Very
No, we didn't have a
excited
date for
about
the
that.
festival yet.
Yeah, it'll be April 25th.
Arts is an extremely important part of any community, and I'm very delighted that you guys are able to get back on your feet.
Yeah, we've got a lot of really good shows coming up and things like that. Foot traffic through there is way up, so it's amazing what's going on over there. As long as I can hold out. So
Stay out of the hospital.
yeah, for real, right? Exactly. So I appreciate everything that you guys have done for us. It means a lot. It really does. It especially means a lot to me.
Thank you so much.
Wait, ask him,
Randy?
where are the Bulldogs produced?
They're actually being made in Chicago, Illinois, and they get shipped down here to us. And then we pair an artist with them and things like that, and it's pretty amazing. So we're actually going to be raffling one off for one of our prizes for the spring event as well, which will help bring in some revenue for the council as well. I'm just about monetizing everything I can monetize at this point.
Hey, that's a great approach.
Which is what we should do. So I thank you all. And does anyone have any questions or anything like that about the council?
I've had a couple of people ask me
Yeah.
that are military, higher ranking, some of them retired, and have asked if there's a way that they could participate and have one like in their yard. Do they have to be a business? And I defer to.
They don't have to be a business. What we don't want to happen is for people to start taking creative license with them. We want to keep a certain standard with them because it is representative of the city of Jacksonville.
Not diluted.
Exactly. So we have smaller ones available, and I'm in the process right now of trying to work out a solution to that particular question. So I've had it several times myself. So I've got it on the burner, and I'm trying to figure out the most diplomatic way to make it work for everybody.
Thank you. Any other questions? No, thank you very much.
You're very welcome,
Appreciate it.
and I hope you'll understand, but I'm going to excuse myself,
thank you.
okay?
Thank you. So we are gonna move to item number 14, which is gonna be the annual financial report. Gail, is that you?
Well,
I'll let you
actually,
do the introduction.
we have April Adams here from Cherry Becker. Y'all remember we went out for bids and changed auditors for the past year. And so she's here to give you a report on the TDA's report for 2019.
Thank you. April Adams, thank you so much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Happy to be here, and I've got a good report so everybody can relax. All right, so here's what I want to cover with you. This looks really lengthy. I promise it'll fly by. I just want to tell you a little bit about what the role of the external auditor is, give you the audit results at the same time. Combined with that involves talking about internal controls as well as significant audit areas. And then I've got, I think, just 2 slides of financial results that you can take away from the report. And then I'll do a quick summary, and then I'll be glad to take any questions or comments. But being the size of the group, you guys are welcome to interrupt me as I go. All right, so the role of the external auditor, we perform your audit in accordance with the generally accepted auditing standards of the United States. So any type of entity that gets audited in the United States gets done under these particular standards, and they call for certain things. So the biggest thing it calls for is to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance that your financial statements are free from material misstatement. And what all that jargon means is that we do a risk-based audit, and when we're auditing, we're focused on where those financial statements could be materially misstated. The other flip side of that means that we didn't come in and test every single transaction. So it's not as detailed as some might think, and I just wanted to bring you awareness to that. The audit standards do require us to express an opinion based on our procedures. We expressed one opinion for the TDA, and that opinion was unmodified, which is also known as a clean opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we can give you as your auditors that your financial statements are free from those material misstatements that we were looking for. The audit standards also require us to communicate certain things to you, so we do it in two ways. One is this presentation today, as well as a letter that accompanied your financial statements. It's probably tucked right in with what you got or came along with the electronic versions. The types of things that covers would be if there were significant changes that might have come about during the audit or things that we want to make you aware of. Sometimes that's implementing a new accounting standard, or if there was a different way of accounting for something, we would let you know about that in that letter. We don't have anything of that sort for the 2019 audit. It also identifies if you have significant estimates in your financial statements, but in your case, the letter identifies that there are none. Sometimes that has to do with allowance for doubtful accounts, or if you had capital assets with depreciable lives and things like that. So you just simply don't have any estimates in your statements. And then finally, if during the audit we encountered any audit adjustments that needed to be made that we found, we would make you aware of those as well. And I'm happy to report that we didn't find any audit adjustments, which means to you that the books and records that were given to us to audit are the books and records that ended up being the financial statements, and that all the transactions are being properly captured, in our opinion. So that is the best results you can get related to an audit. For internal controls, while we're not hired to have an opinion about internal controls, like give an opinion on internal controls, we are required to look at them as a part of the audit. And so when it comes to the TDA, a lot of the financial administrative controls are wrapped into how the city's financially operated. So we test those controls in conjunction when we did the city audit. So the types of things that it requires us to do is identify the significant transaction cycles, and that's things like cash disbursements, cash receipts, your payroll cycle, those types of things. And so what we do is obtain an understanding, meaning we ask, how do things get paid? How is cash received? How does it get recorded? How does it get reported in the financial statements? And then we walk through that process on a test of one to ensure that is indeed how things go. Then from there, we can decide whether we want to test the controls and actually rely upon that to gain some assurance about those material misstatements. And so we've done that. We did that for cash disbursements as well as payroll, and there was no issues related to that. So there was no management letter issued with the audit that would have dictated if there was a material weakness or significant deficiency. So also the best results that you can get. I do want to let you know that the audit standards require us to do certain things for journal entries. So we obtain what we call a data dump of all the journal entries that happen throughout the year, and then we mine that data looking for the non-standard journal entries, things that were done manually, and then from there we pull some of those journal entries and actually ask for the supporting documentation, look at the types of accounts that were hit, and kind of just gut check it and make sure that the transactions made sense to be made outside of the normal cycle of recording the activity. Nothing was noted there. And then finally, the audit standards require us to do certain things for IT. Again, this is kind of wrapped into how the city's IT structure is and the controls that exist there. But basically what we're doing is asking for, we send out a questionnaire, it's asking about access to the server, access to the financial system, passwords, data or system changes, those kinds of things. So nothing was identified as a result of that testing either. All right, so as I mentioned, we do a risk-based audit. So when we looked at your financial statements, we were looking for where they're most susceptible to be materially misstated. As you can imagine, that's going to be where the bigger dollar amounts are on the financial statement. So these are what we identified as the significant audit areas for the TDA or the authority. And this is where we spent the majority of our time auditing and validating the numbers. And we do it substantively. And so what that means is if we can confirm it with a third party, we will. And then from there, we'll do analytics, and we'll be looking at the relationships of the numbers to make sure that they're moving in the right direction with each other based on what we know. And then if we have to, we'll do a test of details, which is where we're diving in and pulling and sampling and looking at actual invoices, for example, or cash receipts or something like that. All right. That was the end of audit school. So this is a slide showing you the revenues and expenditures, and there's a slight oops, hoping there was a thing. At the very bottom it says the light green equals revenue and the dark green equals expenses. That's not true. The light green equals your 2018 numbers, your yeah, your 18 numbers, and the dark green is your 19 numbers, so they're comparing current year to prior year instead. The first blocks you'll see are your taxes and penalties. You'll see that there is quite an increase in 2000. I have that wrong. It's sorry. The light green is your 19 numbers. Your dark green is your 18 numbers. So you'll see that your taxes and penalties increased quite a bit in 2019, and that is a result of Hurricane Florence hitting and all the contractors and displaced residents staying within the hotel. So probably something you already knew, that you had a significant revenue increase in 2019. Then you'll see your interest in miscellaneous income, no real story there. And then when you turn over to the expense side, the administration and tourism, you would think your expenses would have increased, but you guys had some revisions to your strategic initiative projects, as well as refined the process of awarding the tourism promotion awards. So you actually had less expenses in 19 than you did in 18. And then the tourism-related expenses, again, they also decreased because you only had one company make a request in 2019, so it's less than it was in 18. And then the end set of blocks is showing you your change in fund balance. So because you had your revenues increase and your expenses decrease, you had quite a bit of money put back into your fund balance, so you've got an increase there of almost $800,000. All right, so this is just showing you your ending fund balance. As I just mentioned, it increased almost $800,000. So you see the makeup changes a little bit, but really the number that increased, the category that increased the most was your unassigned, and the rest of the categories stayed in place. Which means you can do whatever you want to do with it.
Not quite.
Okay.
Some campaign.
Yeah. So in summary, you received a clean opinion. There's no journal entries as a result of the audit. There's good internal controls to capture all the activity. No significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, meaning there's no management letter. And then we did get full cooperation from Gail and Alan and the whole finance team or anyone else involved with collecting information for the audit. It's not a fun activity to go through to provide all that stuff. So we appreciate that partnership. And I'll be glad to take any questions or comments.
Any questions? Great report. Does that mean another raise, Gail? Good.
Just take the fun balance.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, we need to entertain a motion to accept the audit as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Thank you very much. Great report. Welcome aboard. This is your first year, right?
This is, yep.
It is. So thank you, and Gail, thank you and your team for always doing such a great job. Alan is here. Thank you, Alan. And the rest of the team, I know you guys work very hard to ensure that our financials are always on point, and you've always demonstrated that, so thank you. Item number 7, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 7, Deanna is going to go through the wayfinding and gateway signage update, and this is the item that we are not going to be taking any action on today. So, Deanna, thank you so much, and I'll let you.
Yes. Well, good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. And so we're going to talk about some gateway signage and wayfinding. And so the city has been working on gateway signs, and we recently presented to city council the new concept, and what we were looking for is creating a template that we could modify depending on the site and location. And so this is what the template that we've come up with. It's very similar to the Beirut Memorial Grove signs that we are currently going to be advertising very soon. You'll see that it's got the traditional red brick with the city seal as well as the TDA seal. It's got a concrete cap. So the look's going to be the same at all of the gateway locations. Right now we have our standard 7, but as the city continues to grow, that doesn't mean that those are exactly the locations that they're going to stay. So this first concept that we're going to install will be the courtesy of North Carolina Department of Transportation. During construction of the Piney Green project, at the corner of Piney Green and Country Club. You might recall that there used to be a gas station there. The gas station went away, and there was a surplus property, so NCDOT has given us the property, and our plan is to install this gateway sign at that intersection. And so this is a potential project moving forward for the TDA to potentially fund further signs if you so choose. So just wanted to give you an update on this particular project.
Any questions on that?
All right, and the next project we've been working on is the wayfinding program. And this is something that we, you might have seen a couple of months ago that we had two different types of signs. We had a downtown signage look, and then we had signs that were a little bit different that were on DOT right-of-way. We have come up with the concepts. We have two different looks because downtown you'll be going much slower versus the DOT where you're going a little bit faster. So the signs on DOT are a little bit more robust. So they're a bit larger. They actually require a different set of foundations. And so we're trying to overcome some difficulties we've had with pricing. So we have elected to focus more on the downtown area at this point. And so we have been working with the transportation staff as well as media to identify the locations. And so what we've come up with right now is we have 12 locations, and these are primarily focused in downtown with the goal of getting them in and around downtown. And with that, we have identified a variety of points of interest. And so we found that installing the signage, the end product is going to be a metal pole that sits in concrete. And so you might see when you put up a sign, the sign's not easily movable. So we want to do this as a phased approach. So we're going to take this one step at a time. So the first time it's just temporary on a wood pole. And so we're going to put them in the ground at the areas that we've identified. If you look at the blue line is if you're on the road and you're facing the sign. And so we've identified these various points of interest. We'll put the signs in, and then we're going to wait and get feedback from this group, feedback from City Council, our citizens. And then once we feel comfortable that the signs are in the right place, they have the right items that we've identified, then we'll move forward with actual permanent installation. And so right now, then that's why we've changed the motion, that we didn't want necessarily approval to go forward because they might change based on some feedback that we get. And so we tried to take into account if we were going from Marine Boulevard into downtown and out, are we identifying the correct points of interest that we're interested in? And so right now, I think we're positioned that we can execute the temporary signs within the next month or so. So you'll see those erected, and if you could just provide feedback, and I'm sure we'll work with you to get your opinion as well. And that's all I have as far as that update.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that?
Thank you.
And this is, I guess, what you
Yes,
what you
this.
see up right now.
Yes, thank you. This was
And
this
believe it
is.
or not, I've had a ton of people ask me, is that how it's gonna be? No, it's just a temporary sign. So you're gonna get a lot of that.
Yes, and you can see here with the temporary sign where it is on that wood pole.
Yeah.
And so the height might vary a little bit, because again, we're just looking for locations and then we'll come back. And this is going to be a combined effort with city staff. And we've hired someone to actually make the signs, but city staff will be installing them.
Thank you, Deanna. Any questions or anything?
Yes, Deanna, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm looking at the 11 or the 12 proposed signs and everything. I don't see any, well, maybe I'm missing it. I don't see anything in there about City Hall.
That's a great question. And so, again, what we were trying to focus on was more of the downtown signs. And so you'll notice that we haven't really identified any signage on Johnson Boulevard or on Marine Boulevard. And so that'll be the next phase. So both of those are NCDOT controlled roads. So right now, the sign that we have erected, it's actually on Johnson Boulevard. It's actually on county property. It's outside of the right-of-way. That's how we got around that little hiccup. And so we are working on trying to figure out a cheaper foundation, right? The foundation that we had designed was, for the amount of signs that we want to install, we would just be priced out of this project. And so we're kind of going back to the drawing board to see if we can modify, maybe have a shallower wider footer, that kind of thing. So we've been working with engineering as well as our consultant.
Okay, so there's going to be,
There's more coming, sir.
there's more, in other
Yes,
words,
sir.
people are gonna know how to get to City Hall.
Yes.
That's what I meant. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, next item of business is gonna be number 8, Sturgeon City Environmental Education Center enhancements. Deanna?
So it's been a couple of months now that the Sturgeon City nonprofit has been in the building, and they've had very successful events, which I know they're going to tell you more about a little bit later. But as all new homeowners, when you move in, you look back and go, only if we could have ... And so realizing that there is some residual bond balance available, that the nonprofit has approached the city with the request of making some additional enhancements. And there's 7 that they have identified. And so one is adding additional electrical outlets in the lobby. They found that right now the electrical outlets are only on one side of the main hall, and so adding additional outlets on the other side will allow them to fully use both sides of the wall. Secondly is adding the motorized ADA compliant door. So when you approach the door, you hit the button, both the doors open. So we're gonna consider adding that. They also want to install a security alarm and entrance surveillance system. Obviously, they have some concerns. They're serving alcohol. They've got money on staff, so they want to be able to secure that in the event that there's an emergency. And then there's a safety barrier and signage at the bio tower. When we were constructing the building, you may or may not know this, but the bio tower had residual black balls in them as a result of when it was in operation. Well, we got rid of all that. Well, in order to get rid of that, we actually cut huge holes on both sides of the bio tower, which served great for our purpose. Not so great now, because now that you've got kids and families down there, they're very interested in what is this very large concrete structure. So they're going into that, and quite frankly, it's not safe. And so because it is a safety concern, city staff has already blockaded those entrances, but we still need to work on some of the signage to limit access. On the 5th item, so when we designed the project, if you go out towards the back of the building by the clarifiers, there's a beautiful walkway that walks you to the clarifiers. And what we found is that through their use, it looks great, but what happens is everyone just walks straight and they're walking through the grass. And so they were requesting that we extend that concrete so it's all one seamless area. So that way it encourages people to continue walking up to the clarifiers. So we wanted to take a look at that to see if it's possible for us to add something other than grass to have a smooth transition. Also, with all the heavy use now at the building, it would be really great to better connect the park to the actual environmental education center. And so they have requested us to take a look at adding a dedicated access, like a sidewalk. And it makes sense where we've identified where it could go. And so it's just a matter of, is it feasible and how much is it going to cost? And then lastly, additional parking. I think we've all been down there, and their events are so successful that they just ran out of some parking, and so they're asking for consideration of adding more. So these 7 items, the request that they have asked is to use the balance of that 475 to see if we could possibly look at maybe implementing some of these improvements. And so the motion before is just the consideration of engaging with the architect that designed the building to come up with cost estimates to see what it would take to implement any of these 7 items. And so hold that thought for 1 minute, because I have another item that goes with this that is also dealing with the residual bond balance. With the construction of Sturgeon City being done, that we ended up assessing liquidated damages, and so we have about $40,000 that's being returned to the same bond balance. And with that, we thought it was a good opportunity to potentially make some additional improvements down at Sturgeon City. So what you see here is there is an existing boardwalk system for both the park and the Environmental Education Center. We've identified it in 8 sections. Section 1, which is towards the center, is already made out of Trex material. It's a composite material, but the rest of the boardwalk is made out of wood. and it's towards the end of its useful life, so they're warping and cracking, and it's a lot of maintenance. And so what we have asked, the city staff has asked the nonprofit and now the TDA to consider using the $40,000 in liquidated damages to replace sections 3, 4, and 5 as a base bid, and that section 2 is in the middle, would be an alternate. We feel comfortable that we could replace all of that boardwalk utilizing that $40,000 balance, with anything over that coming from the city of Jacksonville. And that we're gonna hold off on sections 6, 7, and 8, which is towards the right of the screen. Because as you know, the city is in the process of replacing the undersized culverts at Gordola with a bridge. And so obviously, we don't need to be in that same area. And that's something that the city can come back at a later date and replace that. So the request that has been presented today is the consideration of proceeding forward with cost estimates for those 7 items that I identified for the building, and then the potential of using the liquidated damages to proceed forward with utilizing it for the replacement of the boardwalk in sections 3, 4, and 5 as the base bid, and section 2 as the alternate.
Open it up for any discussion. I noticed that if you can go back to the slide of the 7 items, so there's no technical issues there as far as multimedia and from the events that they've had.
No, not that I
Everything
have
looks good.
received, no.
From a technical standpoint, everything looks good.
Very good, sir.
Good.
We've had some recent problems because of security and the Wi-Fi connection that they're working through, but it's not because of equipment or that.
Okay. Okay, so they've got everything they need in order to host events and multimedia wise.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions that anyone has? Randy?
So the parking lot won't trigger any stormwater issues, we hope?
Oh,
That's
yes,
all.
yes.
Okay.
So part of,
Number 7.
yeah. You brought up a good point, sir.
Number 1.
So what we've been asked is to come up with cost estimates, and with that, we're gonna identify any additional permitting that might be triggered as well. So some of these are gonna be pretty easy, and some others are gonna be a little bit more difficult. So we wanted to present, the pros and cons of selecting everything, but obviously we need to identify how much things are gonna cost, because there's only roughly $475,000 available.
Well, I mean, we need to pay for rain.
You like that, right?
I love that.
There's some products that we discussed that would not increase the runoff.
There's permeable products that can be used, and they are utilized. And I've actually seen some of those products in Charlotte, and they look and work really, really good. I don't know how cheap they are.
Right.
But you get to save land mass in order to install them, so you get more bang for the buck, so to speak. So, any other questions? All right, I will need 2 motions, 2 separate motions on this. First one dealing with items 1 through 7, and the other would be for the $40,000 monies that are being returned. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to conceptually agree to those items 1 through 7 and of the attachment, and authorize Sawyer, Sherwin, and Associates to provide a cost estimate, I think, for design. That's the first one. The second one, or we can vote on them separately.
Yeah. And let's do that. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries, sir.
Okay. Second motion would be the approval of the use of the liquidated damages that we received from the general contractor for the purpose stated by Deanna. I don't remember what it was.
Boardwalk replacement for
The specific items that she
2
mentioned.
through 5, I believe.
Second.
Okay.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, moving on to item number 9, strategic initiative work and program and promotion. Glenn?
Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen and ladies, and we're happy to talk to you today about work that's been done on your behalf to advance overnight stays in Jacksonville. Among the things that's happened is the continued effort to tell the story. And our Instagram account has been now redeveloped in a way that is really launching it, and we're going to tell you a little bit about that. We already have a number of posts. This is something that we had been putting off simply because of staff efforts and how thin we were. But it's been launched now with Susan Dozer, our consultant with DK Communications, and Teresa Beecham, obviously with Biomark. And so we're really running this out, and you can see some of the pictures that we've used to that. And we'll bring up Christina here in a few moments on another issue there. That is the use of the vivid imagery really helps tell our story, and we're trying to create those local ambassadors to tell what it is that we're proud about our community. We're trying to do things that'll support our tourism partners. Many are at the table and some that have left the table and such there. And this Instagram is where we are seeing the younger demographics at this time. It really is where that is. And we already have had some national media interest that has come to us as a result of our launch of that program, and particularly with the information about our astronaut. And so we've reached about 3,000 people since January 22nd. So obviously, January 22nd wasn't that long ago. So I mean, we're building this thing. In Facebook, we're not giving up on Facebook. This is part of that. You got to serve the folks the way they want to be served, and so you got to hit all these canopies in one time. And we're doing much more frequent posting with the help of Teresa and Susan in there. And we did get some pretty significant jump from the Veterans Tribute Weekend. And so we're getting non-paid, not a thing we're having to pay for, about 4,000 a month in our reach that we're doing from that. So that's a good thing. And of course, we're going to want to do another media tour, and this one would be in September of 2020. That'll be in your next budget. But we're starting to develop it now so that we can reach out and bring some of these people in and help tell our story and such there. We are, Susan will be actually presenting to the Visit NC travel guide editorial team. This is, they print a travel guide, for those that don't know. It's a big, beautiful publication, and they can't make up their mind about what needs to be on the front, so they print 6 editions with different fronts. And it just changes out, so it always looks fresh and such like that. And they're beautiful photography as it is there. We'll all agree on that. And then our little photography is we are continuing with the joint travel guide. We're not redoing it. We are making some tweaks, and that's what Teresa is leading that effort as it was now with others, and us to try to make that thing work. We have formed with a group of folks to bring Christina Cook to Jacksonville. She's coming back to see White Oak High School as it was, and we're offering an opportunity to do some other things. Don't tell anyone, but we want to present her. We want to have the astronaut bulldog out there, welcome her back and such there. And we want a number of other activities to make sure of it. And this will be her chief reasoning coming back is to go to White Oak High School. She took a coin that was created for her out to space, and she's bringing it back and going to give it to them.
That's awesome.
That's where she went to high school. So. Yes, you can.
If anybody is on Instagram, or even if you're not, then just set up an account just so you can cruise it, or ask Glenn or I or Kim or somebody. If you go to Christina's page, her Instagram account, you will see, to me, one of the best ways to describe what Instagram does with the feeling and bringing it to life. Her Instagram is amazing. Her photography is amazing, and we can see these photos elsewhere, magazines, on the news, etc. But when they're on somebody's personal page, it really resonates. So you guys really need to look at it.
Thank you.
After this works to the Veterans Tribute Weekend, we mentioned to you that we wanted to try to do something around our military holidays, military tributes. We're not going to have, children's events on Memorial Day weekend. It is a somber event, and we want to pay tribute to the veterans. But we are looking at things we can do. We've been invited by the Order of the Purple Heart to assist in the observance. We have worked with some folks that's known well to people in this room about a militaria event, where people who like to collect military stuff they could come here and see that. So we want to invite veterans to do it. And we want to resume our hosted tours of the gardens as it was on that weekend also, or actually on that period of time. And I want Teresa to mention to you a little bit about how for year 2 of the Veterans Tribute Weekend, some things that we see and how we want to also do that in many different ways.
Thank you. Last year was really successful for a first year event. And you always set your sights on, where are we gonna be in 3 years, where are we gonna be in 5 years, and potentially 10 years. All of our partners, we had a meeting in January. All of our partners are on board. Media partners, the venue that, Tar Heel that had the music event, and everyone is looking to do bigger and better things. We need to incorporate some more activities, obviously, and some of the things we've discussed are potentially, nothing's secure yet, maybe doing like a breakfast on Sunday at the USO, much like they do on Saturday, but they're so wrapped up with the parade Saturday that they can't do that. But if they did it Sunday, it would be something they probably would have to expand the hours, but a lot of people would love to do that and go to the USO. It's amazing the people that don't have that opportunity. So we're looking at that. We're looking at potentially another Monday activity and perhaps doing a Saturday and Sunday concert. So, and there's some other things that we've talked about, so we're waiting for some of those to come around.
And toward that end, Scott and I have reached out to some groups that have some sporting events that we think would be nice to feature an opportunity for veterans to come and participate in, and either by a special category for them, or that their members, their entry is sponsored in such a way that we could find a way to have them come here and be a part of our community. And then next, one of the things that we want to talk about was the creating, deepening, and enriching our media exposure. We have a number, as mentioned, about following us in media and such like that. We've had some successful media tours, many of them with our partners, the Chamber, and we want to deepen that. And one of the ways that was found to be thoughtful was to go to New York to the Visit North Carolina exhibit for the New York Times program. And so I'm going to let one of the travelers speak to you about that.
So we were anxious to go to New York and see exactly what it would bring. They have 35,000 people that are interested in travel that come through for the weekend. Friday night is a media event, so it's influencers and press only, and then Saturday and Sunday all day long is just anybody interested in any kind of travel you can imagine. There are 700 exhibitors and 175 countries represented, so it's international. We knew that we're a small fish in that large pond, but what we could gain out of that would be some knowledge and some insight as to, are people interested in our destination? How is it received? What do they know already? I think Kim and I would both say that people if they weren't connected to the Marine Corps or weren't familiar with the southern East Coast or coastal communities, they hadn't really heard of Jacksonville. However, when we started talking to them about some of the things that you can do and the hotels and such, we found a lot of people really did show some interest. And people that aren't interested in like North Carolina at all, the good thing about this type of show, there's so much activity. If they're not interested, they're not engaging. So they're going to cruise right on by you. So you feel like the leads that you get are more valuable.
Sure.
And we came back with 1,200 contacts that obviously have a travel interest. 500 of those are media people. So we can start immediately. We're going to start within the next couple of weeks. We're going to email these people and start working that list and see what we can gain from that. I had myself 3 or 4 influencers that were very interested in coming to the market once we started talking about our story. So that's exciting because some of these people, Susan and I have to do a lot of homework. There's 500 of them, but some of them pretty big influencers. If they influence 30,000 people or 10,000 people, that's a lot. It means a lot to us if we can get some of that attraction. This is the crowd that went, mostly Eastern North Carolina, believe it or not. The Outer Banks, New Bern, Greenville ladies were there, and some people had giveaways, some people did not. Here is the giveaway that we did to represent you, to represent tourism, and it went over really well. They loved the Waltons, they stole it. You look around and it'd be one shot. So Waltons is a big hit. So this is, again, we're gonna continue to work that, to build our email list, and then start with a newsletter hopefully next year. Another thing that we did to enhance our tourism, if you will, is through our local partners with one of the radio stations. WRNS is a powerhouse country radio station, and they do a promotion. They've done it for 3 or 4 years called Crystal's the program director, and she does middays. She has Crystal's Ultimate Slumber Party, and thank you. And I convinced them that they should come to Jacksonville this year and see what it's all about. So we partnered with the Hilton, and everything was fabulous. Tourism was represented as a sponsor, and obviously Hilton got a lot out of it. They had the entire hotel. They had 335 guests attend. They have 7 vendors. People come in on Saturday, women come in at 2 o'clock, they shop, they hang out, they start drinking. They have a dinner, a full dinner. Then they bring in, Crystal brought in 2 Nashville talents. So they're entertained until 2 o'clock in the morning, and then they all go to bed. Some of them came in their pajamas. Some of them have t-shirts made. I mean, that's a big deal for a lot of people. Kim and I were very surprised at the participation. So it was a great event. So, Glenn, you want to touch on that?
Yes. So we're continuing those deepening and enriching activities, and the media exposure was mentioned, the visitor guide tweaks, and of course our state, this was Coast Toast, something that the chamber partners had encouraged us to participate in, and you can see we co-brand this with them in the placements that the months we're responsible for the copy, we co-brand to their side, and they do to us on the months that they do too. So we've got a good thing going there to this effort.
And we have 6 months out of 12 that we're making this, and we have this 5. And this is just so you can see the size of the ad that we're running. And anybody in tourism will tell you that our state magazine, it's very pricey, but it's one of the best places you can be. So,
but it's less pricey when we go through Coast Toast.
Thank you to Coast Toast and for our county partners.
That
makes it affordable for us to be able to purchase that.
And I'm gonna let Teresa go ahead and talk now about Tourism Promotion Fund with your permission.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that update, Teresa. Good work.
Thank you. Where am I?
You're Teresa.
Fashion Week. Well, my slides are different than your slides. So since we met, Fashion Week happened a couple days after we'd gotten together, and they hosted their event at Sturgeon City. This event has grown tremendously, and they do really, really well. They are going to be a big partner, in tourism partner for us. They, here's some of the decoration. They had sorry.
And staff of Sturgeon City
And
with that
staff of
information.
Sturgeon City.
Let's
Let me
just
tell you
that.
something. That staff at Sturgeon City, second to none. They're doing it all. This girl right here,
Amber.
yes, she is the bomb. And here we have our team leaders over there. So just a couple photos.
They've just got to step up their dress for next time.
Yeah.
Maybe you get one of those angel wings.
We got something in mind for Dawn. So this year, I think I mentioned in one of our previous meetings that Cynthia Bailey from the Housewives of Atlanta partnered with them with Fashion Week. And they, by way of, we purchased really some influence from her, and she posted us on her personal Instagram, on her business Instagram. She loved our event and our town. She loved the airport. She said it was cute. So she, but she really wants to partner with LaToya and Latasha in a much larger way. And she would love to do a partnership and has sent a proposal for a partnership with the show Atlanta Housewives as an entirety. And so we would be featured on the show. We're not really in a position to do that because we don't have a venue big enough. You can't grow it so much. So we're hindered by that, but we're keeping it on our radar. So great event. There were 155 overnight stays in that event, from various, and they were spread out. It wasn't all one hotel. So it was everything from the Hilton to the Sleep Inn, Marriott. So, and they had a lot of people coming from out of town, 45 from Jacksonville, Florida. They had New York, Philly. So up and down the East Coast was definitely represented. Oh, Susan set the table.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for
Next.
having me. Flashback to December. It seems like a really long time ago. So bear with me. Winterfest is the first weekend in December. Just to refresh your memory, we have two large events essentially happening all weekend. It is a weekend event. We start off on Friday, go through Sunday with what you see here as the Artisan Market. That continues to grow. We partner with Crystal Coast Crafters Guild, and they're a phenomenal partner, and their goal is to grow and do much better and continue to get vendors and shoppers. They do a great job of attracting really fantastic artisans. Everything in there is being sold, it's being made by hand, nothing is manufactured in a mass quantity. It is really phenomenal stuff, and I know me and Teresa do a good job of buying her Christmas gifts every year. So they continue to do a great job. So it was a great event, a weekend long for them. They do have Santa all weekend. And if I'm allowed to spoil who was Santa, do you want to tell them?
Kopka.
Kopka was Santa for them all weekend. It just,
You can imagine,
it's interesting to say, but he was their Santa. And he did an excellent job.
He did.
So here's just a few pictures. Again, everything is handmade, and they are really fantastic. There he is.
Oh,
He did well with the animals and the
then
children.
one day they do it with pets.
I knew he said something.
Shifting gears to the Saturday event, which is what we would consider the festival portion of Winterfest, downtown Riverwalk Crossing Park. It was a beautiful day. Couldn't have asked for nicer weather. Last year it rained on us, so it was a little bit of a damper towards most of the day really, but. This year was beautiful, and we had a huge crowd. We had a phenomenal turnout from the community, as always. I think everybody just really appreciates starting off the holiday season in a nice way. So, beautiful partners. This is ensemble jazz ensemble from Onslow Winds. It's just a really nice way to kick it off. Again, multiple Santa opportunities all throughout the town, throughout the weekend. We run transit throughout both locations, and they continue to increase the ridership on transit. So it's a really nice way to get people from both locations and tie the two together. That's just one shot of the crowd, so.
There's more.
There are more, there we go. And friendly go. I cannot appreciate.
Cute family. That's
Picture.
hilarious.
Again, the snow sledding always is very popular along with the ice skating. We couldn't do all of this without the help of obviously the city's support, mayor and council, and with the TDA and your support allowing us to advertise and get the word out, because the crowds that come out and the smiles on those faces are worth it all. It really is a phenomenal thing. The staff walk away exhausted, but we're just so invigorated by being able to provide something like this to the community. And there's, I think, a big kid going down the sled. So. We do try to make some enhancements every year. These are a couple of enhancements. These are some large inflatables that the parks crew. They added lights to the park every year. We try and make some nice things happen. We also reconfigured where the tree lighting was. We moved the stage down there. It created a huge crowd for the tree lighting ceremony, and it ties it up nicely. So it worked out really nice. Again, great.
There's Mr.
Crowd.
Chairman.
There's Mr. Chairman Lazar. Thank you very much for being there. And again, just a beautiful shot. We end the night with hopefully the flotilla starting up. We had a little bit of a gap on that one this year, so we'll firm that up going into next year's. But again, can't thank you enough. It's a great event, and we appreciate the opportunity to provide it, and thank you for the opportunity for us to do that.
Wasn't the flotilla was like the largest count that they had?
They had a tremendous amount of boats. We had a lot of people excited about it, wanting to see it. We had a little bit of gap in the end of ours and the beginning of theirs, but we still had quite a bit of people that stayed for it. And I'll mention also, we had a candy shop down at that end, so we are really strategic about the flow of our event, so that as you work your way down towards the waterfront, we have the tree lighting, we have story time, the tree lighting, Santa's down there, and then we also have our candy shop so that they could get hot chocolate, go to the waterfront. Now we also had a band, and some of Onslow Winds was performing in front of the marina, which was really nice, because again, we wanted to tie that in. We had bleachers set up, so really trying to maximize the entire space, because while it's a great event, it can become tight. So we tried to maximize everything and get everybody everywhere. So it was nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will tell you, that place was packed. Good gracious.
Thank you.
Yes.
Great.
It's a great event. Thank you. You guys did a great job too.
Appreciate it. So I'll roll through these next couple of events pretty quick. We also had Jazz in the City. They had a little snafu on their end, and so we didn't get to start promoting it until only 3 weeks before the event. However, the event was a tremendous success. They had like 320 people. They had the event at Sturgeon City. Nothing but good things to say. So the artist is fabulous, does a great show. I saw a lot of new faces. I'm seeing younger people that are coming to this event. So we saw a crowd of young Marines that came that just love jazz and wanted to do something different. So it was it's growing and it's doing well.
If I may, Teresa, there was a diversity of crowds. You had all different races, you had all different cultures that were there, and also hats off to the staff. You guys were just simply tremendous. 325 people there listening to jazz, and in one instance, I gotta tell you this, this jazz young saxophonist came off the stage and went to one young lady and was playing to her, and she fainted, fanning herself fainted. And everybody in the audience started laughing because it was like the old Elvis concerts where they were falling out. I mean, she was so taken back by it.
He was really, really good.
Right, and he just swooned her and everything, and everybody came back. But it was that type of fun that was there. And I just want to say once again, my frat brothers who are dressed in purple, that you see purple jackets, and we just want to say thank you again to the Jacksonville Tourism Development Authority and Teresa and the staff at Sturgeon City. It was fantastic. It was beyond our wildest dreams. Success.
So we also just had the Extreme Endurance 5-mile challenge out on base, and it was successful. It was a great day, beautiful day. We had 368 registered runners, ended up with 28 overnight stays, but remember, well, first of all, they haven't finished their survey. It wraps up on the 22nd of February, so that number will grow, but also this event is part of the Grand Prix series, so you look at them as a whole and what they bring for all of their races. This is a list of the upcoming events that we have: St. Patty's, Engaged Onslow, Marine Raiders, and the Jacksonville Jamboree. I know Lorette has a up-to-the-minute update.
Yes, the expo is still about a month out, and we already have 40 vendors registered, and we've got 24 brides. But the interesting thing that we're seeing, we're getting more vendors from outside of Onslow County.
Okay.
So they're starting to come in from Newbern, from Wilmington. Those are the two, but they're showing a lot of interest in our show. So still a month to go, and we know people that will sign up the day before the event. So we expand, and we'll take them.
You have money.
Credit cards win. And but so we're really looking forward to this year's, and I think even though 24 brides doesn't sound like a lot, a lot of them wait until the day of to come sign in. And again, this has never been about getting thousands of people there. We want hundreds of brides to be that are gonna do business with the folks that are at that show. So we're really looking forward to this one.
And I will quickly go through the discussion on this. We just want to mention about for FY20, the current year we're in, we had that diminishing fund balance because, as you know, with the flip and the peak money that we have to spend, we were trying to maximize that amount of money. And there are a lot of items that come out of that pink money that's there for it. And as you mentioned, the fund balance in that pink money, we borrowed from that so we can keep doing some things. Of course, we accumulated some this past year, and so we're going. But the high priorities are still the strategic initiatives, the partner support, and then the authority direction of whatever you tell us to do as it was there. And we put these in these different groups. We've moved the Bridal Expo to the Strategic Initiative Fund because it really works to bring in business into the future. It's not, as mentioned, it's not those 24 brides spending the night that night. It's what they're going to spend when they come here to have their wedding here as it was. And then for the promotion fund, we now have these 4 categories. And the production of overnight stays is obvious as a result of our funding. That is to say, if the funding was withdrawn, there would be no advertising. That's the Grand Prix series. Then if incubation's continuing, there's some overnight stays produced. That's the Ali Temple with their charity balls and plural on that. And then the Final Touch Models Fashion Week, which is getting to be so successful that we want to keep them here. And then the large community benefit, a few overnight stays are produced that are successful and I mean significant there. And the Jamboree with the athletic part really does. And then of course our community events, and that's the Oktoberfest, Winterfest, Jazz in the City, Art Block, and Earth Day at Sturgeon City that are there. And then we had about $100,000. We took that down. That was $23,000 less than what we had done the year before and $70,000 less than what we had done previously. So you've asked us to kind of move that down. So we intend to do it about that same percent for the coming FY21 and presenting that to you as it was there.
Good.
And then these are the initiatives that we would indicate that we'd like to continue for that, but we want to hear your direction. You don't have to give that today, but as the budget's being developed for the FY21, you'll need to let us know as to which of these that you think are not producing results. We seem to think that we're doing pretty good with these and we would like to continue them as it was. And then, of course, the Art Council Development Project that he already mentioned to you, we want to still work on that arts-related travel portion of it and to continue to get them outside of the door. These are what we spend to implement the efforts as it was, what it cost us to do that matter. And of course, this is how we are spending your funding to that effort also. So that's what I had, Mr. Chairman, to just kind of bring us up to date on that matter.
Any questions? Glenn, do you need to send that out to us?
We certainly can.
Okay, for your review, please. All right, no questions? Okay, Paula, Sturgeon City update.
Thank you, Chairman and authority members for having me. You've already heard a lot of what I'm probably going to also share, which is a great problem to have because it means that we're partnering with these other events and other initiatives, which is our goal. So we're glad to hear that's happening. But I'm just going to run through a brief update of what we've been doing down at Sturgeon City. I borrowed a couple photos here, mostly from the Visit Jacksonville NC Facebook page and a few of the Fashion Week from Getty Images. So this is picture is from the Fabulous 5K that was sort of the kickoff as part of the Sports Commission's Fitness Expo that took place in our facility on January 25th, which was a super successful event, and I'm sure Scott will provide you some more updates on that. So these are just some highlights of the recent events that we've had. As mentioned, we had Fashion Week in our facility back in November. So these are just a couple quick shots. I think the space worked out really well for them. I know we've already had some conversations with LaToya about where they're going for this coming year. December and January are mostly a lot of private parties, whether it was birthday parties or a couple company holiday parties or things of that nature. We had the big evening reception for Jacksonville Board of Realtors in January, quickly followed by the Fitness Expo that weekend. So we're also getting very good at flipping the space very quickly. I'll show a couple more pictures of Fitness Expo, which again, I'm sure Scott will also share, because that was a neat one to get to see the different ways the space can be used for many different types of events. On the 30th and 31st of January, we partnered with the city of Jacksonville and United Way and the nonprofit group Kino out of UNCW that helped to host this nonprofit board training as part of the city grants for the nonprofits. So we were happy to be able to help host that in our facility and be able to partner with a lot of the other local nonprofits. And then, of course, February 1st, we had Jazz in the City, which again was also a fabulous event. So we're glad we were able to help support that. A couple more quick shots from Fitness Expo. They completely did pipe and drape in the entire building, so it was neat to be able to see the way that they outfitted it. Scott will update you more, but I know you had over 40 vendors in there, and so they really maximized every inch of this space, and it was pretty much nonstop until probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, from when the race started in the morning until then, with flow of people. I stopped by briefly. I was not actually working, my staff was, but I stopped by and I was excited to see how busy it was. So busy that I didn't get to talk to my staff very much because they were working hard, which they should be doing. And then these are just a couple quick photos. You obviously saw some of these already from Jazz in the City. But again, I think the space worked out great. The event worked out great. Just a quick note that the primary purpose of our facility is actually our environmental education programs. Again, we're super excited that we have that secondary ability to provide the community space for events. We've been able to be so successful with that. But our staff is also in tandem still running and expanding all of our educational programs. So we do a weekly homeschool program that's actually taking place, just finished at 3 o'clock this afternoon. That's every Thursday. We do a Little Learners pre-K program, and we have actually now spun off a program from our Little Learners called Tiny Scientists, which is a partnership with Zingzum Children's Museum, and we are actually hosting twice a month programs at the museum as an additional offering for them to have for the community. So that's a brand new partnership that we're excited about, and we're working on some additional programs with the museum as well. Again, being so close and them being able to add on science, is one of their offerings with their other community programs and programs for kids. We have been busy with field trips. We've been able to take on a few more in what are usually our slow fall or winter months because of having the new building and the new space. And here in a couple weeks, we hit March 1st, which is what we call our all hands on deck time. From March through May, for those of you that have children and have related to schools, that's the busy time. They're all booking their trips. Also, of course, mostly because we do a lot of outdoor stuff and we still want to do that with the students. But we'll be quite busy doing all of our field trips, as well as several upcoming events I'll tell you about. And we do a once a month Parents Night Out program, and we have done 2 this month because we're doing a special one Friday for Valentine's Day for parents that want to do something that night. That's something we actually launched last year, and we found it to be successful, so we're doing that again. And then soon we'll be having some offerings. Some of the year-round schools go back into intercession coming here in a couple weeks. And we also offer a Schools Out program, which is for any of those teacher work days and things like that the students have. And we've actually been having some increased success with those programs as well. So just a little highlight of a few of the upcoming things that we have. We have an adult prom. You might remember we had one in September from a certain group. This is a different group doing a sort of similar event, but that's coming up on Saturday. And then we have the Onslow Community Outreach. They are hosting their 30th anniversary gala in our facility coming up on the 20th. We will be the location for the Golden Rule Lightkeeper / Fabric of the Community Awards on February 21st. We are having the Lincoln Reagan Dinner from the Onslow County Republican Party in our facility on the 22nd. And then we have Coastal Carolina Community College, their Shuck and Shag fundraising event on March 19th. Is going to be at our facility. We've got a smaller group, actually White Oak High School reunion group coming on April 3rd. Montessori Children's School, their fundraiser on May 1st. And then we actually will be having White Oak High School's prom at our facility on May 2nd. There are a few more already booked out into 2020 and 2021. These are just the highlights. We're actively booking. The phones pretty much ring multiple times every single day, which is a good problem to have. We have a couple wedding receptions booked, and we have met with a few folks about possible actual weddings and receptions. Mostly people still shopping, so we haven't booked any of that yet, but there's some interest there. People are at least learning that we're available and we're an option for that. And something to keep in mind too, which I'll talk about as I talk about this a little bit, we haven't really done any dedicated marketing yet. This has really been word of mouth. People that have come into our facility have learned about it, sharing it with people. Some of the vendors like the DJs and the caterers that we work with, are spreading the information to people that contact them, looking for events. And you know, each event, like Jazz in the City, there were over 300 people there. Some of them had never been in the facility. Now they have, and they might have events. But we are working on dedicated marketing strategies. We've actually been in conversations with Teresa about doing some of that. But as I mentioned, we're working on booking for the remainder of 2020 and 2021. We've been meeting with LaToya about potentially hosting Fashion Week at our site again. The Jazz in the City folks are already booking with us again for 2021, and their group is actually booking some other events with us for 2020, some smaller events. And we are, of course, in full swing for our 2020 Earth Day, which will be on us here in just a couple of months, hoping to grow that, especially now that we have access to the building and being able to utilize that space. And we may have a new added feature if we get it here in time, but I'll update you more on that later. So that might be something neat to be able to have. But these are just some of the things that we're working on. And of course, growing our programs. We're hoping to potentially host another professional development opportunity for teachers this summer. We haven't solidified what that training would look like yet, but that was something that we were able to do last year that was pretty successful. So we're hoping to continue those things as well. You know, we've had several folks through our partnership with the stormwater staff with the city. They're part of several state groups that do different meetings and things like that. We've been able to host some of those, and then some of those folks have begun to ask about return bookings and things of that nature. So, you know, additional things. It's just, it's a very functional facility, and we've even been surprised by all the different types of things that we have been able to happen there and make happen there. So we're excited to continue hopefully having that variety of events and just continuing to grow it. So thank you so much for all of your support. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Paul. It was a great presentation. Any questions?
Very detailed.
Yeah. We're very glad that you're doing very well out there and that things are looking up. That's great. And you haven't even marketed it yet, which is even better. So that's wonderful. Scott?
I need to rest from politics.
Right? Right? Can you top this?
No. So as you mentioned, we
She's
had
cognizant of our time.
we had our Fit for You Fitness and Health Expo January 25th. This was a first-time event, and we started it out that morning with what we called the Fabulous 5K. It was kind of a fun run, wasn't timed or anything. We had over 200 runners participating in that. One fun thing we did is we partnered with the one of the animal shelters, and people could take a dog for a run that morning. So I don't know if there's some pictures of that in here or not. And then of course we transitioned inside the building. As mentioned, we sold out of vendor spots. For about the first 3 hours, you really couldn't even move in there. If I needed to go to the restroom, I had to go inside the larger area, down and around. I couldn't just go right down the hallway. So over 600 people came through the building that day. As I think Paula and her staff can attest to, I think about 99% of them had never been in the building. So again, the word of mouth process. Even the vendors were asking, now we're gonna be outside, right? No, you're gonna be in the building. So they didn't even know the building existed. This was our plank challenge. The winner went over 8 minutes holding a plank. So great event, and as everyone else has said, kudos to Paula and her staff. They were fantastic to work with. So then the very next weekend, we kicked off our 2020 race series with our Sledgehammer Beach Run down at North Topsail Beach. Had 217 folks register for that. That was up 13% over last year. It was very cold that morning. 12% came from 1.5 or more hours away. So that's great to see. I think offering the half marathon helped attract some of those folks. We were throwing multiple curveballs with the route because of beach restoration. One part of the beach completely missing. But we got it figured out. This gentleman ran the entire race holding that sledgehammer. So good for him. USMT was our sponsor. This was a cool sledgehammer they had made for the top overall folks. So they kind of went above and beyond as well. Semper Fi Fund is one of the beneficiaries of that event. And this Saturday, we have Quick Stick Lacrosse down at Swansboro Soccer Association. 19 teams are playing in that event. So like Susan said, this has been the longest year of my life, and we're only in February with 3 events in less than a month. So looking forward to this Saturday, then we get a little bit of a break. If you saw your email yesterday, we announced Cycle NC will be ending their Mountain to Coast ride here in October. We partnered with Salem and with the folks in North Topsail. They're going to end the ride there. Over 500 participants. It'll be somewhere between 100 and 200 hotel room nights, and then another couple hundred to camp out, but they're still going out to eat, spending money and those kind of things. So it was good to be able to land that. And then on Paula's calendar on May 7th, our Hall of Fame event will be at Sturgeon City. And being inducted this year is Melville Roloffs, Kendrick Burney, and Stephanie Rose, if you saw that. So looking forward to that event as well.
Great update. Staying busy.
Yes, sir.
All right, Salem?
Okay.
What's
your problem?
I'll have some for the next one. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. I'm Salem Clark. I'm the new Onslow County Tourism
Welcome.
Manager. Thank you. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about was the Our State magazine. I don't know if any of you had seen the January issue, but it had featured Bear Island and Marsh cruises. It was something that Donna had hosted a press trip with Our State. She came out, she was so impressed, and sent a letter out. So we were very excited because normally it takes about a year or two for a story to come out of that. But we're able to get it within 8 months. And I kind of wanted to read, Daryl Marsh sent me an update from the story, his results from it. And so I just wanted to read a little bit what he said. He said, since January this year, I've conducted 7 shelling cruises in 3.5 weeks. 3 of those cruises included couples coming from the western part of NC, Raleigh, Charlotte, Greensboro, staying at Swansboro Hilton Inn for 1 to 2 nights, including shopping and dining in downtown Swansboro. He's had over a dozen more cruises scheduled into February, March, and he is constantly fielding phone calls every day. Several more are coming up, are going to be staying in Swansboro. And also he said just recently a gentleman called to schedule a cruise and mentioned his wife saw the Our State article in a doctor's office in Ohio. And during their annual trip to Myrtle Beach in March, they are planning to come up for a day trip from that article. So he said this has been exciting to see a direct correlation of tourism planning and its impact on bringing dollars to Onslow County and Swansboro. So it's just really great to see the results from that Our State and just the calls and the visitations that are coming in from that. So we're very excited. Also with Our State, we are doing a paid article that will be on their website starting in March, and it'll be up for a year, and it'll feature the great outdoors in Onslow County. So it'll feature a bunch of different attractions within the county. So we're very excited about that. And then on other great news, the website, I know there's been lots of talks and it's been going on for a long time, but we have a set date. So be looking for the new website by March 1st.
Okay.
We will have it up. Hopefully everyone will take a look and be impressed with the work that's been going into that. And we're also very excited with that. I know Donna's probably talked about it, but we have direct booking. That is going to be on the website where it'll be interactive, where you can book straight through the website and see daily rates of hotels. And then the last 2 things is I will also be going to the Visit NC Roadshow, presenting ideas for the travel guide for North Carolina. And also, I know we'll have another meeting, but we'll be going to Visit NC's 365 conference coming up. So
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome.
Any questions for Sam? All right, thank you. All right, moving on to item number 17. Census moment.
It's 14.
I'm sorry, 15, we already did 14.
You have Ms. Mays.
Gail, it is
Okay.
you.
Well, apparently we don't have a slide, so if you want to turn to page 25, we have our quarterly report through December 2019. Actually, the revenue shown on this report is for collections through December, but it's November state, so it's only 5 months. So we're at 58% for 5 months, so we're on track to exceed our budgeted revenue.
Okay, that's a good sign.
Yes. The expenditures are only about 20% of what we budgeted, and we are ahead by $300,000.
That's wonderful. How about the reporting, is that pretty solid? In terms of monies collected, is everybody?
Nick's she's
Yes,
got that.
yes, yes, everyone's paying. I did that. Okay,
That's it?
yes.
Okay. Any questions regarding the budget? More is always better,
I'm trying to hurry you along.
right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Gail.
Good news.
Okay, and so we're gonna talk about tax collections now?
Tax collection and charge.
All right, here's our chart showing FY19 compared to 20. As you can see, the collections have dropped off, but that was a significant increase last year, so it's not quite as terrible as it looks. Here's the year's collection to date, history, and you can see we're still above all the other years except for last year. So that kind of cleans it up. And then here's the 6-month collections for each of the areas. And we're down a little bit in each of the areas, but as I said, I think we're still on track to exceed what we budgeted this year. Probably exceed $1 million on collections again this year.
And to the end of that, we were talking with Chris Davis, Director Davis there, and we really ought to compare ourselves with 17, because we know 18 is an outlier. And while, because you will see the numbers are up, and like just when we showed on that collection on the year to date, I mean, we're far above where we were in 17 for the same time.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the storm out, if you take September out, you're still up.
It's an outlier.
Yeah, it's still up.
But we're gonna look bad if you just compare us to last year.
Well, I mean, that's, if you don't know what happened last year.
Yeah.
But I clearly remember what happened.
But accounting for that, I mean, it was a nice little jump from the
Yeah.
trend that had been.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe if we stop using Carolina blue, it would change.
That's brutal.
See what we
It's
got.
nothing to do with the last name at all. Anyways, thank you, Gail. Any questions regarding the info? All right, Census 2020. Very
Absolutely.
important.
Here we are. We are 49 days out from Census Day 2020. We're going to remind everybody, the census is to count everybody. Whoever's living in your home on April 1st that regularly lives and stays there, they count there. We lost $402 million because not everybody was counted in 2010. And we don't want that to happen. Think what this community could have done with $402 million over the last decade. And it's used for redistricting. We need the numbers to make sure our districts work. This will be the easiest year you can possibly to fill it out because you can do it online on March 13th. You should have an envelope in your box waiting for you, and it should say, go online, fill it out, do it right then. Hopefully you have a lot of people staying in your house at that time. But we really want you to, if you don't have, if you don't want to do it online, you can call. There's an 800 number you do it. And if you still don't want to have that, you want a paper form, one will be sent to you at your request. Data is secure. It's held in confidence. The people who collect the data take a lifetime oath that they will not reveal any personal information. And it's your civic duty to do so at this time. So these are the areas that we've got a lot of subcommittees out there, and we're doing a lot of stuff to try to get the word out. But let us tell you, it's we're trying to make it happen, and we're just trying to move forward on what we can do with that matter. Thank you.
One city moment.
One city moment. We're using the African American read-in. We had this in the council chambers this past Sunday. It was a standing only crowd, and if y'all think it was hot in this room when y'all began, let me tell you how hot it was in that place. But they had the students that gave this. This is a program that Susan Baptist operates out of Recreation, and it is an incredible testament to the dedication that these people have And look at these proud parents coming out to see their children and to hear this performance. I think this was one of the best years yet that we had for the performance of the young. They memorize these readings and then give them back to you there. And there was only one notable student that just, she kind of lost it there, but everything else, it was great. It was fantastic, these readings of African-American reflections during this time. And we had that, and it was a great little time there to do. Councilman Washington and Councilman Jackson were there, and that's our one city moment.
Wonderful. Thank you. Great stuff. Under 18, director's comments, before we ask you if you have any comments, please keep in mind the next meeting date is March 26th. If you make note of that.
Well, y'all will need to cancel the February 27th meeting if you so desire to do so. Some of you have indicated there's a conflict with the 27th. And so that would be our next regularly scheduled meeting. But because we moved this meeting, obviously, the 27th in 2 weeks, you might get a little overdose of those.
If you meet on the 27th, Mr. Wright wears purple suit.
Yeah, and I'm not here on the 26th.
I'll definitely wear it on March.
You all want to postpone it, have it?
Cancel.
Cancel?
Cancel, yeah.
Okay.
Do we need a vote for that, Jim? Make a motion that we cancel the February 27th meeting. And our next meeting should be March 26th, 2020.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And director's comments?
No comment.
Anybody?
Just one question. Last time we met, we had mentioned that, regarding the census, that, people could take part in that. It was a paid position. Do you know
Yeah,
if
they
that
still
has
need
vanished,
jobs.
or
No,
they
they're only
still will be?
62% filled in the jobs for Onslow County. Go to census.gov/jobs and you can get on there. They also have a tracker that's showing how many positions they are still empty in Onslow County.
Perfect.
Great.
And now they've moved the pay to $15.50, starting pay.
Ooh.
And if you have management experience or stuff like that, that you can supervise others, it's $35. Yes.
All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Aye.